Summer has officially arrived. England have beaten Ireland in a very lopsided test match, but it was sunny and there was cricket and there was lots of runs scored, and Bazball is still around and looking strong for the start of the Ashes. I'm Rich, this is Rob. Welcome to the Leading Edge Cricket Podcast. Rich, how are you feeling? One test match down for the summer, another win for this England team. Ben Stokes' record continues to shine, 11 from 13 now. Things are looking quite rosy.
Yeah, they are, Rich. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I think we swapped bodies then when you introed us, so that's quite funny. If that means if you've got better knees than me, that'll be great. I can borrow them and play cricket still. I think I'm about finished otherwise. Yeah, it was good. It was great to see some Test cricket. The Test summer has begun. And that's always a great moment in the summer, isn't it? That we know that Test cricket is here. And this is no ordinary summer. I feel like I've done an advert here. This is a Ashes summer. but yeah,
it's expensive.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, free advertising. Come on, sponsor us. Yeah, so it's mega in it. So really pleasing, and it was an interesting Test match for many reasons, wasn't it? It was wonderful to see England really go at it and play how they want to play. It's clear, and this was like, you know, a little bit extra Bazball. Sorry, we won't keep saying the B word. Why is it always the B words that are the controversial? It's always the B word.
Don't know. It's one of those things. Yeah. It's changed cricket so much, eh? Like, I don't know about you, but when the Test match day one was done and England, I think, opted to bowl, I had such a feel of disappointment that I wasn't going to get to watch England try and score at 6 runs and over for 80 overs and then declare. Like it's a set formula going, we've got 80 overs of cricket to bat and we're going to put all the pressure on the opposition.
Absolutely, yeah. We're at that point now, aren't we, where we just want to watch England bat. It's like bowling, oh, okay, fine, we'll watch it for a bit. But I want to watch them bat. I want to watch the batting. And it has, like you said, completely changed the way we sort of, what we're expecting from this England side, isn't it? And they delivered. It's as simple as that. I know this Ireland side, and we'll talk about Ireland. We know that they're not, you know, there is a bit of a gulf, isn't there? Let's be honest. Let's not be too rude, but let's not bandy around it. They are a gulf away from England, but they did well overall in this Test match. England will beat teams better than Ireland by a bigger margin than this across 3-4 days. I think that was the disappointing thing, really, is the game was over so quickly. You've got 4 innings or 3 and a bit innings completed. But it was just done in 3 days, wasn't it? So it's a little bit disappointing in that respect, but it is what it is. So for those of you living under a rock, I'm sure it's a really pleasant rock, but for those who are, this is what happened. It was an England 10-wicket victory. England knocked off that chasing target of 11 in just 4 deliveries. Good old Zach Crawley hitting 3 fours. England had before put up 524 for 4 declared, including Ollie Pope, double 100. Ben Duckett, 182. This was after Ireland were dismissed in the first innings for 172. They did follow up with a nice 362, though, with some really good contributions from some of their batters and all-rounders. So that's the game, Rob. Let's start pulling it apart, shall we? More so from an England perspective, because obviously we are looking ahead now to that first Ashes Test that starts on this Friday, the 16th of June.
I want to start with England's batting, because England's batting, whether good or bad, and it has been good for a year now, since Stokes, McCullum era and Rob Key overseeing things, operations. He's done his job. I selected the right people. I'll just step back. Nothing for me to do here, mate. Just let them go. Great management, actually. It's been bad for a long time before then, and now we're in this era where we get to see amazing batting, and it is quite incredible. We do want to watch it. And Crawley and Duckett is where I want to start off. Break it into segments of how we've gone. Opening partnership, heaps of talk around. Duckett's probably the guy now. He's come in, he's done really well, he scores well. And Crawley is a case for being dropped. And there was talk on Twitter, Stokes could open, Bairstow could open, Ben Compton could come in. Tim Robinson could come back from the 90s and open. You know, there's all this talk about anyone but Crawley. Crawley batted pretty well here. He scored 50. Scored a very fast 50, about 39 balls. There was a really interesting stat, though, that came out. I'm going to talk in a little bit about what I like about the Duckett-Crawley combination. But for Crawley getting through, there's some beautiful, fluent cover drives. But it can't just be me there that's looking at it going, Ireland haven't bowled very well. England have capitalised. That's great. But there was a heap of real false shots going on. There was a lot of inside edges going through. There were outside edges. And then there's these fluent cover drives thrown into the mixer. 32% of his shots during this innings were false shots, and that's the highest he's ever recorded in an innings of over 30 balls. So for how good it looks on a scorecard, I just kind of still, and I don't want to go, he scored 50. I want to be an anti-negative on it, but I still think there is a thing where we need to accept that if Crawley's the guy, this is how they're going to go and play.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's going to go score 50. Sometimes he's going to nick off quite early, or Tim Murtaugh's going to nick one out and get him out, and nick one in and get him out. It's just got to be accepted. What did you think of Crawley in this? Did you come away with a sense of he's definitely the guy for the start of the Ashes?
I mean, from my point of view, no, he's not definitely the guy. But from the England perspective, the internal perspective, he's absolutely 100% the guy. And scoring runs, and he's had a sneaky okay build-up, hasn't he, in County Championship? He's done okay as an opener. When you just rank the openers, he's up there with runs scored. He's just sneaking up there anyway. He looked fine. I think the best thing I can say about him, he's one of those performances where he didn't really catch my eye one way or the other. He batted quite, when he did put the ball away, he put the ball away nicely. But the negative side of it that you just pointed out, it didn't really catch my eye too much, to be honest with you. So that's really interesting to me. And I'm sure a lot of people, especially those who only caught bits of it and then saw the scorecard. So I think he looks okay. That's where we are with it. How he will look against Cummins, Stark, etc., is a completely different scenario, and that's the big thing we're looking forward to in that first test, especially if England are batting on that first morning. How will Crawley get on? The partnership's wonderful, though, isn't it? When you look at the whole tall, short, left, right hand combination, that's a difficult adjustment for bowlers. If you're bowling a ball to Crawley, he knocks a one, suddenly it's a completely different length and line to Duckett. Duckett will cut you off a Yorker. That's just the way he seems to like to play at the moment, isn't it? So I think that's going to help Crawley. It's probably going to help a little bit of the inconsistency of the bowlers, and it'll probably put balls in areas that he can go after a little bit more because of where they've been trying to bowl at Duckett.
Yeah, definitely. It's got the feel, and this is why it's there. They talk about the consistency factor of a Crawley and this opening partnership. It's there to put pressure on the opposition, and there's no worse feeling as a bowler when you're going for boundaries time and time again. Ben Duckett is incredible at putting balls away for the boundaries, and it's all over. There's a ball. I'm not comparing Ben Duckett to Brian Lara here, in that sphere, but Brian Lara could bowl a ball just short, a little bit short outside off stump, and he would cut it, he would run it down, or he would pull you away. And Ben Duckett does all of that, but he does it of a completely different length to what anyone else is, that someone else is coming forward to. And he's incredibly aggressive. And you know what I really liked about his innings? One, he went off like a train, putting the bad ball away. But the bowling was slow for him. You could see him really struggling. Even though the pitch was flat, he was getting himself into this position where he's like, you could sense that he might just throw away 100.
Yeah.
But the Ashes is coming. Big scores will matter. Fast 50s is great because it puts time into the game and allows you to do other type of things. But I really appreciated how I think it was the start of the second day, he got himself through to 100. He just reined it in a little bit, got himself through to 100, and then went crazy. And going crazy, he scored 100 in that first session before lunch, 100 runs. That's the first time it's been done since, I think, 1910, 1920 in England. And it just goes under the radar because you're watching England Bazball in operation. If that was 10 years ago and it was Kevin Peterson doing it or Andrew Flintoff, it'd be the biggest thing going. But it's just accepted that's how we play. And there's a hell of a lot to like about this partnership when it comes off. We've just, as fans, got to appreciate when it comes off, that's great. But there's going to be times it doesn't, and we end up a couple down early doors. And you've got to train your mind and go, we've been terrible opening for years and years. That's no different to how it was. But the good times are the best times you're going to have.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun cricket, isn't it? And when you've played, when you're watching, if batters are absolutely going off like a train at the start of the innings and boundary after boundary, it is soul destroying. It doesn't matter if it's a long game or a short game, it's still that start, and you're constantly then trying to recover from that start and rebuild your innings as a fielding and bowling team. Duckett, we spoke about Crawley at length, haven't we? So we won't worry about him, But Duckett looks superb. I really, really hope he does well against the Australians. I think he's going to be an awkward player to face. there was a fantastic stat that did the round. Somebody asked about it. He doesn't seem to leave the ball. I think it's Simon Dool asked. He doesn't seem to leave the ball very often. And what was it? I think it's eight. He's left 8 deliveries since his recall in Pakistan. In over 600 and something deliveries. I can't remember what it was. It was a ridiculous stat though, but there was like 6 or 8 leaves. That's it.
How aggressive is that?
It's
like
ridiculous.
The batsman, like great ball just outside off stump. Not even a lead. Hardly play and miss. He's just trying to hit the ball to the boundary.
Yeah, you would expect that stat to go up a little bit quicker against Australian bowlers with the extra pace, I'm sure. But yeah, he just looks a sound player. It's a fantastic selection. We have to remember that. He was batting at number 3. It was not a player we expected that they would call up. We wanted it, but we didn't expect it, especially with that middle order being so chocker. And to throw him in as an opener as well is wonderful, and credit must go to everybody involved in that one. So they make a great start, and then obviously it allows somebody like an Ollie Pope, doesn't it, to come in and be able to play with that freedom because he sees Duckett knocking it around the way he does. And obviously if Crawley is the first man out, then we still have that left-right-hand combination with Pope and Duckett, even though they are about the same size. And before I move on from Duckett completely, we have to just point out, who the hell was that cameraman when the national anthems were being played? He was going along the line and they've all got their arms around each other. And who was he in between? Was it Crawley and Broad or something? I can't remember, but 2 of the tallest blokes in the team. And Duckett's there, and all you see was just a forehead of Ben Duckett as it went across. Come on, man. He did him dirty.
That's just a cameraman doing it for the pops, mate. That's all that is. He's like, I can get some mileage out of this
brutal.
one. Remember that time I cut out Ben Duckett?
Yeah,
I'd like to see you say it to Ben Duckett's face because he looks a very aggressive young man when he's got his beard going on.
Definitely. I think Duckett said I need to stand somewhere else in the line.
No, excellent stuff. And good segue to Ollie Pope as well. Like he played really well. He scores a double 100, first double 100 he scored. His previous test best was 120, 110, 120 in that range. So huge range to go up from. I found on commentary they were talking a lot about him struggling and being off balance a lot in this. And I was looking at it going, well, he's putting the bad ball away for 4 pretty well. And I thought he looked really good. I didn't think there was that much struggle, but that's more to do with the bowling than the batting. And they've probably got other information coming through to them about how he's actually feeling about what's going on. But I was impressed. He's grown into this number 3 role and plays almost exactly the same as he was wanting to do. You remember in Australia, the start of the last Ashes, he came in and I remember saying, Ollie Pope's going to score the most runs. And that first test match, he looked brilliant. He was knocking the ball around a little bit, putting pressure on the fielders, coming down the wicket. He's just taken that approach and amplified it by 10 as a number 3. And he'll be averaging over 40 as a number 3 over the last year. And again, number 3 is a role that we've struggled to fill over the years. I think Joe Denley was batting at 3-4 as the last time the Aussies were here in 2019. So turnover's quite high.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see him really, really grab that position now. I'd say a year ago, we were still having question marks and discussions over whether Pope is the man at number 3 and whether he's even the man in that middle order as well. But again, England really like him. And this is one of those selections where they've stuck with him and he's given them enough over time. It's not like, again, I'm not trying to strays at Crawley here, but Crawley will give you a big score and then not much. Yeah. Pope is a little bit more consistent as he goes through, isn't he? So it's a little bit less frustrating to watch, less of a question. Obviously, he's now the vice captain officially, and to put this score away, start of the summer is astounding, isn't it? 205 off 208 deliveries, including 3 sixes, 22 fours for Pope. You keep talking about Pope if you want, but I just want to quickly mention Joe Root. It was great to see him back in an England shirt after not really. I think this is probably his first red ball action of the summer, wasn't it? From the winter.
Yeah.
So it was nice. Drinks. Yeah. So it was nice to see him get a few runs. At a really quite steady strike rate, though, of 94.91. Very slow compared to everybody else.
Yeah, he batted quite well for his 56 as well. Looked gutted when he was out as well, and no one celebrated like, oh, wow, we've got a wicket. What's going on here? There was talk ushering around Twitter and around the crowd about going for 1,000, Rich. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't hear that, and I'm glad I didn't, because that is the disrespect. I'm not a fan of that. I'm glad England just played this properly. That would have been ridiculous. We would have never played a test match against Ireland again if we'd have racked up 1,000. They would have just said, no, thank you, go play somebody else. I don't think that would have even crossed anyone's minds in the dressing room, not at all. I even saw a couple of pundits and others on Twitter just saying about potentially like Ollie Pope, oh, wonder if we're getting close to a retirement. It's like, no, it's a test match. Play it properly, play it fairly. And that's what England did. England scored enough. And again, it's getting Ben Stokes. Ben Stokes did nothing in this test match other than lead and captain. So it was good to keep his like little declaration muscles warmed up, and keeping in mind what a good, a positive declaration would be. Not enough, but not too few either.
I love it. I love the Stokes declaration. It's always about when can you maximise taking wickets.
Yeah,
that's always what he's after. The one in New Zealand was class. Declaring on the first day of a Test match, we're going to bat 60 overs, smash it around, try and take some wickets before dark.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? It's not about, do you know what, we can bat on till tomorrow morning and we'll get another 100, or we can put them in a really awkward time of day with an hour to go, an hour and a bit to go before the close of play, and we'll probably nibble out top 2 or 3, which is worth way more than those runs. So, and that's it. And I don't know if you want to move into Stokes or not, but Stokes, it's God love him, and he's good enough as a batsman at number 6, even though he didn't bat in this Test match. He didn't bowl. And there was an instance in the second innings where he took a catch, I think off route perhaps, and he jarred his knee. It looked like he jarred himself. I joked before, didn't I? It looked a bit like me trying to struggle on in the second 11 with my dodgy knee. It's a concern. I think I'm just going to put that to you in those terms. It's a concern.
It is a concern, mate. But there's no way, unless he snaps his knee in half, that he won't be on the field for the Ashes. This England team is a better team with him in, regardless of what value he adds with the ball, and regardless of his movability to be able to run and move laterally. He's got a great set of hands, take some blinders. And in a card, mate, you've got an accelerator, you've got a break, and you've got Ben Stokes, the clutch. And Ben Stokes is going to be absolutely golden in this Ashes. You can't go into a big competition, big series without your number one guy.
Yeah, I've got an automatic, so I ain't got Ben Stokes in my car.
No Ben Stokes in that one. Moving on to the bowlers, mate.
Yes.
Different sort of setup this, bowling against different quality batters. But did get to bowl on a flat pitch as well and see how they went about things. Start off with Stuart Broad, excellent in the first innings.
Yeah.
Lots of talk about him working on this away swinger. He's an excellent bowler against left-handers. Heaps of LBWs. He's got half the Australian team in his back pocket, which is a big selection issue that may come down the road when trying to pick your 4 bowlers for the game. But Stuart Broad, what were your thoughts? Good away swinger, bad away swinger? Away swinger?
He's just an away swinger. I just love the fact Broadie's not been working on an away swinger this winter. He's been working on his sports psychology. That's all it is. He's just rattling the Aussies, and I absolutely love it. I mean, the fact that he talks about the last Ashes series being void because of COVID restrictions, and Mitch Starc jumping out of the water like a salmon, just nibbling onto his rod, and and properly going back, not even with a bit of banter. I mean, Aussies, absolutely love them, love the country, but we've always said it, when the Aussies are up against it, they are rattled, and this famous Aussie humour soon goes out the window. As soon as they're up against it, they do not have a sense of humour. And Stark's already showing that side of him. He could have come back with a bit of whatever, Broadie. Because I think after Stark did have his little meltdown about it, Broadie then went back to him and just said about, I'm just going to look up how many times Mitchell Stark and Australia played outside of Australia during those times. Oh, yeah, 0.
0. Cancelled the series for South Africa.
Didn't even dare leave the country. So, poor Aussies. So, it started, Rob. Oh, my God, it started. I didn't realise I was going down this road.
It's going to be a good one. It's got the build of a 2005 Ashes series, this one coming up, hasn't it?
It's just snuck up a little bit, hasn't it? It's been a little bit quiet, but suddenly it's just suddenly channeled through my body there, and I'm ready to get stuck into some Aussies now.
Let's have it.
Bring me an Aussie.
I was massively impressed by Broad's away swinger. I think it adds great value because he's so good against the left-hander. But you've got Steve Smith, you've got Marnus Labuschagne in the order, you've got a Cameron Green who's getting better and better. But a really good IPL as well. Got to find a way of adding value against those sorts of players. And Broad is a away swinger. even if it's just the mental aspect, because they hate him. Remember that day that he had one to first slip and didn't walk?
Right.
Like, you can't write Stuart Broad's script. He's next level.
Right, I'm going to have a correction on this. If Gilchrist, oh God, who was the keeper? I'm saying Gilchrist. If the keeper had caught it, it hit the keeper's gloves and deflected the first slip. The keeper dropped it. Who was the keeper, Rob? Come on, just give me that keeper's
It
name.
would have been Haddon, I guess.
Yeah, or Brad Hedo. Haddon dropped that to first slip. Brody didn't edge it to first slip. Just, I want to correct the record. But it still winds them up, so it's hilarious.
So Stuart Broad, question marks around how we get him in for the first test, because you've got Anderson, you've got Robinson. Yeah. If they are flat wickets this summer, the point of difference being the pace, which you can see England have liked for quite a while, bringing in a Wood. Hopefully they would have had Archer. Now you brought in Josh Tong, not because of championship performances, but because of the additional pace that you've got. And they did they put investment into the county game to be able to pull out data on bowlers' speeds, but not just speeds. Hey, this guy can bowl 85 mile an hour. It's what you can do throughout the day.
Yeah.
So that's what they value, and that's why he was selected. What did you think of Josh Tong's first performance in an England shirt, especially coming out of left field to get a call-up? Extraordinary mental attributes to be able to even get to the big game on just a plethora of injuries that he's had over his life. What did you take of it?
Yeah, I've got to be honest. When the call-up was first announced, it really surprised me. One or two of the players that I thought would have been ahead of him might have niggles as well. Craig Overton's Briding Cars, people like that. Obviously, Sam Cook was somebody that's done it consistently and has ridiculous stats and just consistent performances. But it's clear what England needed was somebody else, that extra pace. Like you say, we haven't got Archer, we haven't got Stone. There's Woods around, but then who else is the next pace man? And not just a seam bowler, but the pace. And Tong has good height, he extracts good bounce, awkward bounce, and he can bowl consistently those high 80s. And there's probably a little bit more to go with him. He's got a good frame, hasn't he? First innings, I thought he started really well, and then he just lost his way a little bit.
A little bit erratic with his line and length a little bit in that first innings at times.
But debut for England at Lords, never played at Lords before. It's going to take a while for him to understand, settle into the famous old slopes and all that sort of nonsense. But when he came back in the second innings by getting a wicket, I think it was in his first over, wasn't it? And then his first spell had 3 wickets. It was superb, finishing 5 for 66 off 21. He's got his name on the board already at Lords. I thought he bowled really well. And what was really notable, and this sort of links back into the conversation about Ben Stokes, is it a concern? Stokes talks a lot about he wanted to use Tong as his third bowler and bowled different spells. So first innings, he pitched the ball up, he bowled a normal spell, if you want to call it that. But then he wanted to the rough him up, the little bit of a back of a length, do something a little bit different, the aggressor. And that's Stokes' role in this bowling lineup generally, isn't it? So what we're saying, what we're looking at here with what's been said is that perhaps we're not going to see Stokes be able to, do that role and extract that little bit of physicality from his body to bowl those physical aggressive spells. I hope that's not the case, but it might well be. And I think they've gone from liking Josh Tong and seeing what he did over the winter with the Lions and seeing that he is a different type of bowler and there isn't somebody else out there in county cricket perhaps, to going, actually, this guy's part of the setup now. He's looking good. And with that, obviously, his name has been added and it's an unchanged squad, isn't it? We'll go into that shortly, but for the first 2 tests. So Josh Tong is part of that squad now. I think it's a 15 or 16-man squad now with Tong involved.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good performance. What you really wanted to see was a point of difference, and I think he gave you that. He topped up at 91, 92 mile an hour, not consistently there, but probably match average 85, 86, but there were spells where it was 88 going through. Thought his short stuff was really good because he's so tall. He doesn't have to be that short to create the bounce that's going to cause a problem. And he did everything that was asked of him. He performed multiple different roles with the balls at multiple different times of the game. In a game that we've dominated, but multiple situations. There were times where, particularly in that second innings, where where Ireland actually got a bit of a run going. McBride 86, Adair 88, Harry Tector scored 50, and he was bowling a different length. Yeah. And it gave a different question to Broad and Potts bowling, which is going to be important. And if you find yourself in the Ashes, Australians are, they average so much. They're great batting at home, but there are players that are incredible batting away. Steve Smith's record in England is astronomical. He is the reason they didn't lose the 2019 Ashes series. Some of his knocks were just outstanding. got to find a way of getting him out. He struggles against the short ball. Neil Wagner roughed him up at 80 mile an hour in Australia. There you go. I'm calling it. I'm saying he kept hooking him out. But essentially, he roughed him up enough for me to giggle about it and say, hey, Neil Wagner keeps getting you out.
Yeah.
And it's a theme that's followed. People keep bowling short at him. And in county championship cricket, well, people have been bowling a little bit fuller and getting him LBW every week. Josh Tong got him LBW one of those weeks. So you can just see it. I think it's a great debut, a good addition. They always like pace. It's been great, the Wood Archer kind of combination over the years. However, Archer's had an incredibly unlucky run of it. But we're generally a better team when we're not taking wickets, when we've got someone with a bit of pace. That's why they brought in Jamie Overton last year, who did pretty decent with the ball. Great addition with the bat, scored 97. So Josh, you can 100% see why he's in this team.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story as well. If you don't know much about him, read up on it. Go and just do a little Google search what he's been through. Nearly retired. He had stress fracture issues earlier on in his career in his foot, and I think his back, and then he's had a shoulder problem, which meant he nearly lost feeling in an arm. He's had all sorts of things go on. In 15 months or so, he was out of the game. It's just a wonderful story, and it was lovely to see him getting his cap before with his family, you know, his partner, his siblings, his mum and dad, and all that sort of stuff. And Jimmy Anderson, what a man to give you your cap as well. So good for him. Matty Potts, don't overlook Matty Potts. Matty Potts we were wondering who would be the Matty Potts of this year, and it was, in fact, Matty Potts. After he did really well. And he bowled well. He got 3 wickets in the game for give or take 100 runs. Looked okay. Had to work really hard. First in the second innings. First innings, he was, it was a steady, wasn't it? 2 for 36, I think, off about 15 overs. Looked really solid. Looked like what we'd expect him to. So he's another man that's absolutely in and around this rotation for this series. We'll talk more about the selection for that first test, which again, 16th of June is coming up quite quickly. We'll see what's what, but there was a lot of talk about whether you would miss Broad would be the man to miss out. It'd be Robinson, Anderson, Wood. I'd really like to have a good discussion on that another day. So that's an interesting one for me. But we shall see. Ireland, should we do you want to just have a quick skip through Ireland, because some really good performances there. With the ball, a little bit difficult for them, but certainly in the first innings, Andy McBride getting a couple of wickets. Obviously, second bowl, there was 0.4 overs. But it was with the bat that they did impress second time around, wasn't it? First innings, plenty of starts, but then it was a difficult sort of time for a while, wasn't it? But McCollum 36, Sterling 30, Camphor 33. Second innings, though, this is what we want to talk about. 44 for Lorcan Tucker, I thought looked very good. Harry Tector, I know you want to talk about 51. And then 86 not out for Andy McBride, and Mark Adair 88 off just 76 balls, with some very good entertainment that got them with a lead. And that was probably the biggest cheer of the test match, when Ireland took the lead and made it that England would have to bat again.
I thought they did reasonable. There is a golfing class, particularly around the bowling. Mark Adair was good. The other guys, I spoke before in Hitting Against the Spin Book. They do a great piece where they talk about the pace of the game. I've spoken about this on the podcast before. 80-90% of the balls in county championship cricket, and that level is below 81 mile an hour, and 80 to 90% of the fast bowling balls in Test cricket is over that. So there's a big difference. The bowling was, other than Mark Adair, around that sort of 78 mark. Flat wicket, not really challenging England. And to be fair, on that first day when England batted, I actually thought they lacked a hell of a lot of control. They were unlucky, like Crawley inside edges, but they did lack a lot of control. Kept fighting. Good old Irish spirit kept them going. And it was really good to see them bounce back and not see 172 all out followed by 150 all out. They actually fought all the ways, which we would expect from any Irish team, regardless of the sport, and put up 362. Decent effort. There is good players in there. Harry Tector's an incredible player, great T20 white ball cricketer. Paul Sterling is now. We know all about Paul Sterling from English cricket. But I think the question that's been going around is the longevity of the Test match game and the influence that T20 cricket is having on the world in our little bubble of Test cricket is quite severe. Ireland have played 7 Test matches in X amount of years since they've actually come in, and most of them have been this year because they've had a tour this year. Like, what does the future look like for this Ireland Test team? How hard is it for them to put out a Test team when even the best bowlers aren't available? Little, who was bowling in the IPL.
Yeah.
not playing in this game.
I didn't really understand that. The logic behind him not coming in, they wanted to rest him for some of the one-day stuff. I mean, come on, that just seemed a little bit of a silly. This was an opportunity to play at Lords. You know, your best
Yeah.
team you could put out at Lords. It just seemed a little bit illogical to me. But you know, workloads, etc. I'm sure there's a reason, but I don't get it. Ireland, they don't really have a first-class game. There has to be a way of incorporating Ireland internationals into the county game. It benefits these islands that we all live in together. You know, just because it's not going to benefit England, which is probably slightly, you know, England and Wales, whatever you want to call it. It needs to look at. On commentary, they were talking about the fact that if you're an Irish cricketer, you have to play as an overseas player in county cricket, so it's restricting the opportunities. If I'm wrong on that, please someone tell me, but that's what I heard on commentary. That has to be looked at. That has to be changed. Who wouldn't want a Mark Adair, a Curtis Camphor, a Lorcan, Tucker, Harry Tector, amongst others in their setup? There's got to be a way of getting them some cricket, even if it's in the One Day Cup, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, when the 100 has decimated counties, and then you're still asking them to play a once greatest competition in the One Day Cup with, you know, young players, second 11 players, and a few first 11 players. So there's got to be a way of helping it. Otherwise, Ireland will eventually fall by the wayside. There has to be opportunities for their players to develop against the best players, bowlers to bowl against good players, batters to bat against players that are a little bit quicker, a little bit more consistent than what they would find. And also, like you say, it's getting them out there in the winters, isn't it? It's going to Sri Lanka for a couple of tests. It's going somewhere else. It's even getting them doing a test series against England Lions. You can do it at a neutral venue. Go to Dubai or Abu Dhabi and play against a 3-test series against England Lions. Do something, but there's got to be, you know, the international ICC, etc. The international game has to work with these countries, the islands, the Afghanistans, the others who potentially want test status, to really, really help them develop as quickly as possible. Let's not forget, not too long ago, Sri Lanka could not win a game of test cricket, and now nobody looks back at them and thinks, oh, they're not much cop, and they're not a huge island. You know, it's you've got to help them out as much as you can, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of that going on at the moment.
There did used to be a lot of that. There used to be, I rolling back the years here, racking the brain, but I'm sure there used to be minor counties in the Royal London Cup back in the day when I was a kid growing up. I can remember watching teletext and going, oh, minor Lincolnshire's playing. That's exciting.
Well, the countries, they had Netherlands and people like that play in the One Day Cup,
Yeah, exactly. Netherlands were there, Scotland were there. Why can't there be, and this is completely spitballing off the top of my head, if there is a restructure to English County Championship cricket, or of whatever it is, why can't there be a view where Scotland have got a team in it, Ireland have got a team in it, and you've got a 20-team competition and a 10 and a 10?
Yeah.
Completely irrelevant of commercials of how it all might work, but completely spitballing. Why can't there be something like that where there is a great pathway for these players? And let's not forget, every time there's an Irish player that is good enough, England will take him. Yeah. You're tapping into a completely different market.
Yeah.
We did it with Ed Joyce. We did it with Owen Morgan. We did it with Boyd Rankin.
The big lad. I was just going to... We didn't have to say his name, just the big lad.
Yeah, the big lad. Hamstring. I'm sure it was his hamstring that went on the first day of the Ashes.
Yeah, and that's always been wrong for me as well, is that Owen Morgan... I would have loved to have seen Owen Morgan 10 years ago find a way of transitioning across to play for Ireland. I don't know if there was a way of doing it. But there are players over the years have played for two different countries, haven't they? So there must have been a way, a special dispensation or something to get him going over there. One, because I got annoyed by Owen Morgan by the end. I had enough of him. But also, it would have been a massive benefit to Irish cricket if you had a leader like that. So, yeah, we've got to make an agreement that we do not go after Irish players. I know it's difficult for them, that they might want to come and play at the best possible level, but if play for the country that you should be representing, and that will only help Ireland in the end. And we're seeing it with was it Josh Little, playing IPL. You will get opportunities around the world if you're good enough. It doesn't matter who you play for. I think he's been a bit controversial, but you got that Nepalese spinner recently. You know, he's played all over the world. It doesn't matter who you're playing for if you're good enough.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And, fair play Ireland. They gave it a shot here. They gave us 3 or 4 days of test cricket. England played exactly as you would expect, pedal to the metal the whole time, and picked up the first victory of the summer. So the next time England will be on the pitch if all white for red ball cricket in their whites with their bucket hats on in training, which is trending. I need to go and buy one, except they're £25 for a bucket hat. I know inflation's rife, but £25 for a bucket hat? Don't know. I'm sure you used to get them free with a pint of beer at certain pubs on certain days. We will be back for an Ashes preview for that. But before then, we're going to continue our England cricket depth chart, which is going through. We're going to talk about the England squad for the Ashes in upcoming podcasts coming up. So yeah, we're going to look forward to talking through that. Let us know what you think in the comments below about this England team performance, and let us know particularly around the Irish Test match cricket future. How could it work for smaller nations coming through, particularly one that England could potentially influence in a positive direction? Thank you so much for listening, everyone. You've been legends. Till next time.